Hello everyone, I'm Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Today for analysis we have Harusami. Harusami was the best samurai in ancient Japan. He was so skillful that the Lord of Darkness recruited him for his army. When the Lord of Clarity found out, he had Harusami killed for betrayal. Now the samurai is back and wants revenge. So Harusami is the newest premier monster, and this is actually the same monster that won the Design Your Own Monster challenge. So it's kind of cool that we finally got that monster released. So here we have him as a child, as a teen, as an adult, and yeah, that's his design. Anyways, this monster is a dark monster, therefore his weakness is light and his trait is immune to stun. Now already this is a really good trait, but what makes this trait even better is that this is actually the first dark monster to have immunity to stun, which is especially perfect because one of the best deny monsters for darks is Mommy, and Mommy has an AoE stun. So having a dark monster that's immune to it, well, that just really puts him on top. But anyways, let's jump into the stats. So the stats you see here are actually boosted. As I mentioned earlier, here's a premier monster, and when a premier monster is released for the first month, that monster has up to 20% more power, I think up to 15% more life, and up to 10% more speed. The numbers might be a little different, but my main point is that the stats are boosted, so these aren't actually his real stats. His real stats can actually be found by going to Monster Legends Social Point video on Harusami, and one thing I want to note is that it is perfectly possible that even these stats may not be real, because Social Point at any time before a monster is released to the time the monster is released, they can change whatever they want. So these are the stats they have in the video, but I can't say 100% sure that these will be his stats, but we're just going to operate under the assumption that these are his stats. His power is 3,498, and although that ranks him number 7 out of the 25 dark monsters, that's an extremely high power. For life we have 3,763, and with a life that high, it actually makes him the 4th dark monster with the highest life. And for speed, he boasts an impressive 3,465. Now in terms of the stat alone, 3,465 is the 4th highest speed stat for all dark monsters, and that actually makes him tied for 5th place for speed, and he's tied with monsters like Mommy, Glitch, so as you can tell it's a really good speed. And as I mentioned earlier, this monster has immune to stun. So if we're talking about team wars and you go up against an enemy that has Mommy, well, you don't have to worry about being stunned by Mommy because of your immunity. So really good power, one of the highest for darks, a really good life, extremely tanky, and a really good speed. This monster's stats all around are really good. So now let's see if his skills complement his amazing stats. For his default skill, we have Harusami Slashes and Dark Stone Blade. 25 damage, 13 stamina, no cooldown, 30 damage, 13 stamina, no cooldown. Nothing special about the default skills. So let's move over to his special. Arashi Ken deals massive special damage to all enemies, may make all targets bleed. Massive special damage here means 70 damage, it's an AoE, and it gives the enemies bleed. So overall this is just a basic special. It's pretty good because the high damage given this monster's high power, and the fact that it gives bleed. If any monster was to not die from a hit like this, they would get the negative effect bleeding, which no monster is immune to. So a pretty good special. Moving on to skills group 1, and I apologize if I butcher any of these names, but let's get straight into it. Tsui Tsengiri deals moderate special damage, 50% chance of making the target bleed, 35 damage, 26 stamina, no cooldown. So you guys know how I feel about the 50% chance of making an enemy anything. Basically, it's not worth running, not a good skill. Moving on, Daku Soul steals life from target, 30 damage, 25 stamina, no cooldown, lifesteal 50%. Now the effect is fine, lifesteal 50%, that's perfectly good. However, the damage 30, that isn't that good. So we're gonna skip this skill and move on to Majutsu Cuts. Deals moderate special damage, 50% chance of stunning the target, 35 damage, 26 stamina, no cooldown, 50% chance to stun. Again, not a good skill. Overall, skills group 1, there's nothing worth running, so we're going to move into skills group 2. In skills group 2, we have a skill called Kansengiri. Deals heavy special damage, may make target bleed, 50 damage, 28 stamina, no cooldown. So at first glance, a lot of people might like this effect. Not only is it special damage, so you don't have to worry about fighting against a dark monster, and not only is it no cooldown, it also gives bleed, which no monster is immune to, but overall, this monster has significantly better skills that you probably won't need to run this skill. So I'm going to move on to Daku Spirit. Deals life from target, 50% lifesteal, 60 damage, 25 stamina, no cooldown. Now this is definitely a skill you might want to run. 60 damage is really impressive, and it's a lifesteal skill. So I already mentioned this monster has the 4th highest life for dark monsters, and the fact that he can lifesteal 50% of whatever damage he deals, that's just going to make him extremely tanky, especially going up against actual tanks. You know, earth monsters, he'll deal a lot more damage than he normally does against earth monsters, and he'll drain a lot more life out of them. So this is a skill that you may or may not want to run. That's because his other 4 skills that I'm going to talk about are extremely good. So that's really going to be up for you to decide. It's really a preference-based skill set. So I'll come back to the skill later on. Anyways, we also have Majutsu Slices. Deals low special damage to all enemies, may stun all targets, requires cooldown. 30 damage, 35 stamina, 3 turn cooldown, it's an AoE stun. what's not to love about this skill? This skill you definitely should run. And actually, the fact that this monster has an AoE stun, combined with the fact that he has a really good speed, one of the highest for dark monsters, this possibly makes him able to become a main deny monster. You can run all speed runes on him and he's gonna be good to go. And the reason I say that is because, again, coupled with his amazing speed and no dark monster being immune to stun, well, there you go. It's pretty straightforward, right? In the context of Team Wars, where it comes to really 2 legendaries against 2 legendaries, and then we have another rarity, which, you know, could be common, uncommon, rare, epic. When it comes to scenarios where it's up for your dark monster to be a main deny monster, if you don't have Krampus, if you don't have Mommy, this monster can easily serve as a main deny monster. So you might want to consider it. Regardless whether you make a strength build or a deny build, you need to run Majutsu Slices. Moving on to skills group 3, we have a skill called Shao Sengiri. Deals very heavy special damage, may make target bleed, requires cooldown, 65 damage, 31 stamina, 1 turn cooldown, and this skill gives bleeding. Now, I definitely recommend this skill for 2 reasons. The first skill is, of course, that it is special damage, and I talked about this previously. You don't have to worry about fighting a dark monster and using only dark abilities. You have a special skill which deals neutral damage all around regardless of what enemy you fight. And on top of that, it gives bleeding. So even if for some reason the monster you fight lives, he's gonna take bleeding, which means his power goes down by 90% and he loses 10% of his life. So what's not to love about this skill? Definitely recommend you run this skill. And on skills group 3, we also have a skill called Daku Shadow. Steals life from target, requires cooldown, 60 damage, 25 stamina, 1 turn cooldown. This is a lifesteal 100%, which is why it's 1 turn cooldown. If I scroll up over here, remember Daku Spirit, it deals the exact same damage, the exact same stamina, however it has no cooldown. The trade-off is 50% lifesteal versus 100% lifesteal. Now this is why I said it's really about preferences. Some of you might want to run a 0 cooldown skill over a 1 turn cooldown skill, and it's really up to you. In my opinion, the only reason we need 0 cooldown skills is because of monsters like Timerion, or I should say, because of Timerion. Currently in the game, Timerion is really the only worry when it comes to monsters with high cooldowns. Now the reason I'm okay with running a 1 turn cooldown skill is because in the context of Team Wars, if it's metal and dark versus the enemy's metal and dark, you can make it to where you don't have to worry about the enemy Timerion. You know, maybe you can deny him before he denies you. There's like a lot of possibilities. But if you really are worried about that, run Daku Spirit instead of Daku Shadow. However, I just think the trade-off is too high. Being able to lifesteal 100%, that is absolutely phenomenal, and that can come in handy so much. Again, keep in mind this monster has 30,000 life, over 30,000 life. So if he was to take a heavy hit from the enemy's attacker, which is possible, enemy attackers can deal a lot of damage, 25k, 26k, they can deal a lot. And if this monster can deal that damage back out, plus drain it, that'll really come in handy. So I definitely recommend 100% lifesteal. And last but not least, we have Majutsu Slashes. Deals moderate special damage to all enemies, requires cooldown. It's an AoE, 45 damage, 36 stamina, 3 turn cooldown. This is the standard high damage, I guess it's actually moderate damage, but you know what I mean. It's that 45 damage AoE. And this skill, in my opinion, you should also run. And I don't think there's much to say about the skill other than it's good. You know, if you start a game off with Majutsu Slices and stun them and deal 30 damage, and then next turn you do Majutsu Slashes, combined with the fact that this monster has a high power, combined with the fact that maybe you'll give him 2 strength runes, that might be enough to wipe out the enemy team. And let's not forget, you also have 2 other monsters helping you out. So definitely this skill is worth running if you make an attack build. So my recommended skill set for this monster would be all of skills group 3, which is Shao Sengiri, Daku Shadow, Majutsu Slashes, and Majutsu Slices. And for the runes, I would run 2 strength runes and 1 speed rune, or quite possibly 2 strength runes and a team speed rune. When it comes to selecting runes, it really depends on you and what level you are in the game. So if you're fighting against enemies that have level 10 runes, you really need a speed rune. If you're running against enemies that have level 5 runes, you can do 2 strength runes and a team speed. You can even do 3 strength runes if you wanted to. You don't have to worry about the enemy monsters going twice, because those runes don't add up to give them a high enough speed to go twice before you even attack once. So always keep that in mind. Runes are really dependent where you are. A standard rune really for attackers, a standard rune set is 2 strength and a speed, and you'll be fine with that. And of course I did mention if you wanted to, you can make them a denier. And for that, you would just do all 3 speed runes and you'll be good to go. That's really the only difference. However, I do want to say this monster does give you some flexibility. So even though I can recommend this skill set of these 4 skills, if you didn't really want to run Majutsu Slashes, you really don't have to. And the reason I say that is because, again, this is a team of 3-on-3 monsters, right? I'm talking about in the context of PvP and adventure map right now, but mostly PvP. You have 3 monsters on your team. So let's just say you run General Thedes as a main deny monster, and you run Harusami as a main attacker, and you run a second monster, you know what, let's just say General Atum, right? He can be an attacker, he can be defensive, so you have kind of a hybrid, right? General Thedes would go first, and use Stamina Devours, thus draining all of the enemy's stamina, and then after that it would go over to the enemies who would probably recharge because they run a speed rune. This is assuming you ran a team speed rune or whatever. As long as Harusami doesn't go before them, you'll be fine, or it doesn't really matter when Harusami goes, right? The first move you'll do is Majutsu Slices. You have strength runes, he has a high power, he'll deal a nice amount of damage, at the same time he'll mobilize the enemies further. And then it'll go down to your secondary attacker, General Tomb. He does the Tomb's Mace, wipes out one of the enemy, right? So now it's 2 against 3. It goes over to your General Thetis. What does she do? She recharges. It goes over to the enemy monsters. What do? Well, they're stunned. Immobilize. It goes over to Harusami. Now there's only 2 targets. There's really no reason to run Majutsu Slashes. All you really need is Daku Shadow, Shao Sengiri, Daku Spirit. Any of those skills would potentially win you the game now, or at least eliminate one of the enemy monsters, even Kansengiri, right? So let's just say you do Daku Shadow, and then it goes back to General Tomb and he does the Tomb's Mace. So you really don't need a secondary AoE. And I just wanted to throw that scenario out there because I know when we get an attacker, we tend to think like, oh, 2 strong AoEs and that monster can win in 2 turns. But it's important to keep in mind that you have 3 monsters, not just 2 monsters. It's never just Immobilizer and Attacker. It's Immobilizer, Attacker, and some other monster. So even though having 2 AoE skills is really nice, at the same time, there's no real need to also run it. So just in case you don't want to run Majutsu Slashes because you can't decide between Daku Spirit and Daku Shadow, that's totally something you can do. When I first saw this, I was actually thinking of running both Daku Spirit, Daku Shadow, Majutsu Slices, and Shao Sengiri. And I wanted to ignore the Majutsu Slashes, but the way I play in PvP is that I have a main deny, a main attacker, and then a supportive monster. It's usually always Lux, who gives my attacker 2 times damage and precision. So in my case, I would definitely love to do Majutsu Slices and Majutsu Slashes, and I don't really use Lux as a secondary attacker. But again, it really depends on preference and whatever benefits your playing style best. Now with all that being said, my final thoughts again are that this is definitely one of the better monsters that's ever been released. I think this is possibly my favorite premier monster, and this is the first premier monster I'm actually going to buy. Now, some of you are going to ask me, is this monster worth it? Is he worth 250 gems? And to be 100% completely honest with you guys hear me say it all the time, it's really about preference, and at the end of the day it's up to you because you're the one spending gems. I think if you only had to choose one dark monster in the whole entire game, the one dark monster that is worth spending gems on is Krampus. Krampus has the fastest speed and he has an AoE freeze. Aside from that, he has a single freeze, and aside from that, he has a skill that gives 2 negative effects plus burning or 2 negative effects plus poison. You really can't beat that. Krampus right now dominates the dark, and if you want to compare Krampus versus Barbatos, I honestly think Krampus would win for several reasons. You know, Krampus could AoE freeze him, then single freeze him, then burn and 2 negative effects. And what does Barbatos do? He drains his own life to attack. So it's pretty clear who would win there. Now keep in mind those monsters do serve different purposes. Krampus being a denier, Barbatos an attacker. This monster, Harusami, what I love about this monster is that he can play both roles. He can be a denier or he can be an attacker, and he can be good at both of them really. He's immune to stun, which is perfect for going up against opponents that have Mommy and Team Wars. So overall, I do think this monster is good. I'm even gonna go so far as to say he's really good. However, is he worth 250 gems? That's really up to you guys. That's all I can really say. I hope you guys enjoyed the analysis. That's it for this video. I want you guys to do 2 things. I want you to write below in the comments if you enjoyed this video, and I want you guys to let me know who's gonna actually buy him. I'm really curious to know because this is by far the first premier monster I actually really like, and the one I actually am gonna buy. So thanks again to everyone who watched this video and made it to the end. Be sure to leave a thumbs up. Make sure to share this video with your friends. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure to subscribe. I do an analysis every Sunday, and like always guys, remember to dream big and pursue your passions.